I just got back from a perfect 3-day adventure ride. A friend of mine recently got back from an organised ride on the south coast of New South Wales, and he shared the GPX file with me, so I modified it and turned it into a 3-day ride. When one of my riding buddies turned up to load the trailer, I didn't have to be a mind reader to know what was going through HD's head. This was Matt's first moto camping trip, and I think it's fair to say he overpacked just a tad. My partners in crime on this trip were Matty on his 701 and HD on his 501. And if you're wondering why I'm shooting them from the back, this is their best side.
You good? Yeah, I don't think I had any.
So we packed the car and trailer, hit the road, and made our way to Huskisson, where we had a great pub dinner that night. We spent the first night in an Airbnb which was appropriately named Casa Husky. But before we hit the tracks, HD and I decided we had to do an intervention on Matt's luggage. He'd packed a barbecue, which weighed about 5 kilos, and a whole ton of other crap. So after pulling about 15 kilos of crap off his bike, we finally hit the road. First stop was a good breakfast in Huskisson.
They're all there, so...
Day one, and from the moment we left Jarvis Bay, we pretty much on dirt for the whole way, 270 kilometres from Huskisson to Buckenbauer, where we were camping for the night. We aired down and we settled in for some fun dirt riding. Nick had been teaching HD how to wheelie, and HD had mastered it. The GPX file that I was given had 4 breakout routes pretty early on in the journey, and so we were looking forward to checking those out and having a bit of fun. But just after we turned off on the breakout, HD, being HD, had to have his mandatory luggage failure. After HD recovered from his luggage malfunction, we hit the breakout proper. We settled into the ride and it was just fantastic. It was a mixture of flowy tracks plus slower technical breakout sections and just a lot of fun to ride. I think anybody that rides adventure bikes knows what it's like when you get into that zone. When you're riding pretty well and you're not thinking about anything else other than the scenery that you're riding through, the trails coming up in front of you, and you're just having an absolute blast. Well, that's how I felt on the first morning. The clouds started building as we got to our first lookout called Highlands, and it was pretty spectacular. When you get to locations like this on a bike, it's just pretty special. As we continued on, the tracks were just beautiful. They were fast, they were flowy. It was really, really enjoyable riding. Most of the riding was actually pretty straightforward and easy, but there were definitely a few little sections that were fun, a couple of challenging little climbs, but we loved the diversity of the scenery. The route was really incredible. You know, one moment we were riding up in the mountains, the next moment we were down on the beach, and we stopped in at Pebbly Beach, which was absolutely beautiful. And the locals were very friendly. We got a little bit of intermittent rain towards the end of day one. It didn't do much to spoil the riding, but it did take away our views from one of the lookouts. We were camping for the next 2 nights at a Hipcamp site in Buckenborough. And this is the farm. We were the only people camping on that farm, and we were right next to the river, and it was stunning. It was such an amazing campsite. Not only did it have a barbecue pit, but it also had flushing toilets and it had a hot shower near the barn. So it was camping in the wilderness, but in luxury at the same time. It was day 2, and today we're riding with no luggage. So we're riding from our campsite and we're doing a figure 8 loop. It's about 250k, largely on dirt. And we were doing some lovely tracks, including the Maria Fire Trails, which we'd heard a bit about. We'd had a tiny bit of rain last night, but not enough to penetrate our tents. And the weather today was absolutely gorgeous. We were on dirt literally from the moment we came out of our campsite, and the trails just seemed to get better and better. And they were all pretty fast and flowy, and there was no dust, and the traction was just fantastic. You couldn't ask for better riding conditions. One of the breakouts was a single track loop, and it was a lot of fun. We got to Maria Fire Trail, and I'd heard a bit about this track, and I think it should probably be renamed the Big Dipper, because it's just up, then down, and it was a lot of fun. It was probably one of the highlights of day 2. The hills never look that steep on GoPro, but both the descents and the climbs were steep, but yet they were pretty smooth and there was good traction, so it made it fun and doable. If I had to use just one word to summarize the day 2 riding, I'd say diversity. We had everything from fast open dirt tracks to single track to river crossings to steep little climbs. But again, there was nothing that was super technical or tough. I've only ridden Endure National Park once before, but oh my God, is it a stunning and beautiful national park with just incredible wilderness. The views from the lookouts were really impressive, and I kind of feel privileged knowing that it's really only either hikers, dirt bike riders, or people in 4x4s that are going to experience some of these stunning, stunning views. We stopped into the supermarket on the way home and picked up some supplies for dinner that night, and by the time we got to the camp, we were pleasantly tired. So after about 6 hours of riding, we just enjoyed relaxing around camp, enjoying the afternoon, and having a few beers as the sun went down. We were talking around the campfire about how when you're camping, often just the simplest things can taste amazing or be amazing. And while we had just a humble barbecue, I'll tell you what, barbecued sausages with Turkish toast and beer and wine sitting around the campfire, best meal ever. After a wonderful night's camping, we were looking forward to our final day of riding. On day 3, we were riding from Bakkenbauer back to Huskisson. It was about 230 kilometres, and we were passing through some beautiful national parks. The day got off to a bang. We were straight onto the dirt and climbing up over some mountains into some fun riding. Most of the time we were riding up on ridge tops, but occasionally we had to dip down into the valley and cross one of the rivers. Now that we had luggage back on our bikes, it was only a matter of time before HD had his regular luggage malfunction. One of the breakouts had us climbing up on top of a ridge, and then we were riding along this sort of single track across the top of the ridge, which was beautiful and fun riding at the same time. Then we entered a sort of rainforest down in the valley, which had a couple of good mud pools. And when we got to Shallow Crossing, I was a little bit surprised at just how not shallow it was. It was actually deeper than I thought it was going to be, but I didn't realize it was actually tidal. And the South Coast wasn't quite done with us yet. There was still a couple more technical trails for us to ride up. Again, not super hard, but challenging enough to keep us on our toes. In my intro, I called this a perfect 3-day adventure ride, and it was. So what made it perfect? I think it's a number of things. Number one, riding with like-minded people. Number two, riding amazing trails that were fun and had the right degree of difficulty and lots of diversity and no lock gates. 3, riding in just beautiful, beautiful countryside. 4, great weather. And number 5, and for me the cherry on the top, was camping in such a beautiful location. That just made it perfect. And so to the South Coast locals that put these tracks together, and I know who one of you is, you should be really proud. You've done an amazing job in showcasing the stunning adventure riding that the South Coast has to offer. So a very big thank you.